What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 22 of the Speak Up Sports Podcast with Cass, Chris, and Shad. What's going on, fellas?
Good,
What's
y'all.
what's up? What's up?
What's up? What's up? Before we get started, I want to wish a happy belated birthday to my brother Chris, who celebrated his 30th this past weekend.
Appreciate that.
You do anything fun this
3-0.
weekend?
Yeah, had a surprise birthday party Saturday, man. And boy, did we have a time.
It was time indeed.
That's more than enough that needs to be said on that. But with that being said, with Chris having his 30th birthday, we also had a crazy week in sports. Not only in the NBA with a surprise firing, but we've got some surprise hirings in the NBA as well as some surprise hirings in the NFL on the coaching side. And obviously we're still in the playoffs, so we had a great divisional round that ended with a great epic matchup between Pat and Josh Allen again. Let's go ahead and get started with the games, man. I'll start off with the first game of the week, which was Ravens versus Texans. It was a big game, not necessarily for the Texans because they were a young team, obviously, a team that not many people expected to be where they were at, especially expecting to win division and get into the second round. But a big game for Lamar Jackson. A lot of people had questions about him and what he could do in the playoffs, and obviously he came into this season with a 1-3 playoff record, but put on a marvelous performance and came out with the dub. What did y'all think of the game, man?
I thought it was great to see that from Lamar. We talk about, of course, like the game changers versus game managers. I thought in this game, though, like he had control of the game the whole time, made the right plays at the right time. Whether he didn't do too much. He didn't pass the ball a lot. That he only had 17, 18 passes. He did take the game, in his hands or in his feet, really, when he rushed for over 100 yards. So I mean, like he got crucial first downs, but that Ravens defense, man, like for the Texans, as prolific as their offense has been. Well, I don't want to say prolific, but it's been pretty good. To score no touchdowns, the only touchdown they had was on that punt return. So to hold them like that just shows like how dominant the Ravens defense has been all season. And we're definitely seeing it translate to the postseason so far. And it's a big test coming up. But I thought this game showed a lot about what the Ravens had as a whole. It's not just Lamar, it's everybody there.
I say, it gotta feel good for Lamar, get another playoff win. That's the biggest knock on him, I guess, at this point in his career. He already has an MVP. We all expected him to get his second MVP. What's next for him? Success in the playoffs. So to see him come out and, for them as a whole, like Cass said, to dominate as a team, that's got to feel good. He did everything he needed to do, which we expect because that's what he's been doing all year. So it was a good game by Lamar. But like Cass said, that defense, man, that thing crazy.
And it's a defense that's been rotating players. Obviously Marlon Humphrey didn't play this past week. They're expecting to get him back this week against the Chiefs. But on top of that, you're also still missing Mark Andrews, who we all thought was going to come back last week. They're saying he's expected to come back this week, but they're continuing to still produce his receiving weapons. Obviously, like we said, he did go over 100 yards, but just having a 4-touchdown game in general, that's just something.
Yeah.
It's one thing to get a win, but I feel like a lot of people feel like he's just been performing poorly in the playoffs or hasn't been able to get it done. But 16 of 22, 152 yards, 2 touchdowns. He has a QBR of 93.9 out of 100. A quarterback rating of 121, which is the highest is like 153. So, I mean, just an excellent game on both sides. And that just kind of goes to show, like, for all the stigma that goes against running quarterbacks and whatnot, I mean, it takes something to have to defend both. I mean, you can't defend both. As good as the Texans was playing, they were a top run defense in the league. As good as they were playing defensively and offensively, I mean, you couldn't once the second half, obviously, like we say, they couldn't really get anything going on offense. And then, obviously, I'm sure like y'all, like myself, I'm sure y'all thought when they did have that punt return, it was like, what's going to happen here?
Yeah.
And I mean, they completely controlled the game. I mean, basically go on a 24-0 run in the second half. And I mean, it's their year. You know, I really feel like it's their year. We're going to see this week. It's a big week for them, obviously having to go through the Chiefs. But do you think, in terms of outside of the playoff success and that kind of question, for Lamar, do you think that people are still kind of giving him, because he did go for over 100 yards and maybe didn't throw that 300-yard game, do you think that we will ever get to a point where people are like, oh, he's a good passer? Because, you know, we had a conversation this weekend about someone saying that he's not that good of a passer. But, you know, you put up 4 touchdowns. Well, I mean, what can you do?
Is the main thing, like, Lamar's a baller. He does what needs to be done, and that team does what needs to be done to win the game, whatever it calls for. And I think that's kind of what you see, like, the differences between, like, traditional, like, passers that go out and throw for 300, 400 yards a game. Like, he does whatever is needed to be done to win. If it calls for him not chucking the ball up there 25 times plus and running some, then yeah. So, I mean, I think that narrative would never shake him because he's going to continue to play the game that way. And I think we just gotta, like, as a society, as fans watching the game, just gotta accept the fact that this is a quarterback that's literally just going out there and leading his team to wherever they need to do in the game plan. It's very unique because not all quarterbacks can do that.
Interesting enough. I think it's just the art of, you know, people don't even call him what he is. He's a dual threat quarterback. Like, that's what he is. He's a dual threat. He has the running game and he can pass the ball. But for whatever reason, because he can do so well running the ball, it's like, well, he doesn't have the gaudy passing. Okay, but he can pass the ball. He can do that if he has to. If they sell out and say, Lamar, you know what? You're not running the ball on us today. He can pass the ball. We've seen it. But because because every team doesn't go with that approach, he's like, okay, I'm gonna take what you give me. I'm gonna just take off. If you want to cover it all downfield and I ain't got nothing open, I can make something happen. But he's never, like Cass said, he's never gonna just throw 300 yards like consecutively in game because that's just not his game. But he can do it if need be. But unless he's doing that, they're never gonna. I don't think he's gonna ever shake that stigma.
Yeah.
But even then, you know, I feel like he can do it. It's the weapons. I mean, I'm not saying that the weapons are bad. They're obviously good weapons now. But outside of Mark Andrews, we don't have a single receiver on that team that's top 10 at their position, top 15 at their position, top 20 at their position, top 25, top 30. I mean, if we're saying Zay Flowers, or who are we gonna say is the number one? Or Zay Flowers or Odell?
I would say Zay, honestly.
Okay, I would say Zay because that's who he targets more. He trusts more a little bit.
No disrespect to Zay at this point in his career. Obviously, he's a rookie. Was he even a top 5 rookie receiver?
He might have been top 5.
I mean, it's kind of tough. You got Rashee Rice.
You got Rashee. I put him over Rashee. But yeah, Jordan Addison, Puka. He top 5.
Okay.
Zay, he produced this year.
I mean, I'm not saying he's
but no,
not.
It's a question, like, though. Yeah, I mean, it's debatable. But that is, I do agree with your weapons point.
But, you know, and people compare him to Patrick Mahomes, obviously to Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, who all had, obviously Josh Allen didn't start off with Stephon Diggs, but when he took that huge leap, it was in unison with Stephon Diggs being there. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes came in with Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill. And then Joe Burrow, he comes in with T. Higgins, then gets Jamar Chase, who is his college receiver, breaking all the records the year right after. And then obviously he takes a big leap and they go to the Super Bowl in his second year. You know, when is Lamar – I mean, not to say that Zay Flowers can't be that guy, but, you know, I feel like if Lamar were to get somebody – because, you know, T. Higgins is a free agent this offseason. If he gets a T. Higgins, the Ravens are probably priced themselves out at this point because they're most likely going to be a Super Bowl contender. But if they were able to trade up to get a Malik Neighbors or a Marvin Harrison Jr., that would be something to see for real.
I agree with that.
So I was watching an interview with Odell. Odell actually was having an interview with his teammate Marlon Humphrey on his podcast, and Odell was saying, they asked Odell, like, who throws the best ball out of everybody they've played with: Baker, Lamar, Eli, and Matt Stafford. And he said, he was basically saying, like, it's between Lamar and Matt Stafford, but Matt Stafford probably takes the cake. And he said, if he felt that Matt Stafford came into a situation with Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, and Andy Reid, he'd be doing he'd probably had the same record as Patrick Mahomes. How do y'all feel about that kind of conversation in the different quarterbacks?
I mean, it's facts though. I mean, a lot of people not gonna want to say it, but the situation you go to matters. We've seen a lot of different just people in general. Once they leave a situation they're in and go to a different one, it works for them. People say system quarterback, but you got people like Andy Reid who can build a system around the quarterback, or you got the pieces with them already. Like, I mean, again, Alex Smith took that team to the playoffs. Like, that team was good. It's just that Patrick Mahomes is obviously better, but with the weapons he can maximize them. Like, to say that's not true, you'll be just lying.
Yeah. I think we see it, time and time again, where you see, I mean, Lamar went late in the first round. If he would have went to a different team, that's picking one of the worst teams in the league, one of the type of, it'd probably be a lot different. He probably would not have an MVP right now. It would probably be, I mean, it's like every situation that matters. Like, is when you inherit talent, and I think that goes into like what conversation we'll have about Caleb Williams and all of that, in a few weeks when we start talking about draft and stuff. But that stuff matters. If you go to a Chicago team that does not have a lot around them compared to going to somewhere else, for instance, or you go to, they could add pieces, but a Commanders team that doesn't have, that has receivers, it's just difference. It's a difference, like what you're surrounded. So, yeah, they're going to look different. I think it's a huge conversation that needs to be had when you're talking about who's best and who and what they're working with. For sure.
Okay, so, and a lot of the conversation this week in the national media has been about quarterbacks, especially Josh Allen. But I want to say that for last. Obviously, that was the last game of the week, maybe even the best game of the week. But the game following that was the 49ers versus the 49ers versus the Packers.
Mm-hmm.
And you alluded to it earlier when we talk about game changers versus game managers. In that game, we kind of saw a situation where at the beginning, it kind of looked like maybe the conversation about Brock Purdy being a game manager looked to be true, whereas Jordan Love, and on the other hand, some people might have said is a game changer. Do y'all feel that Brock Purdy answered? Obviously, the 49ers went on to win 24-21. It came down to Brock Purdy leading them on a game-winning drive, and then Jordan Love threw an interception on the last drive to complete the game. Do you guys feel that Brock Purdy answered any questions in terms of who he is as a quarterback, maybe in your minds, or if it's not in your minds, just in the general public?
I don't think so, honestly. I don't think that game didn't change it either way for me. It was good to see him, lead the team to that late drive, which was very impressive. But it was also some throws that were like, what are you doing there? And it was also wet, like it was raining, so he, trouble holding the ball. Like, you saw a couple balls get away from him. I don't want to take too much stock from a playoff game like that. That was more like, I would say, game plan focused. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of what it's centered around him doing. So I can't take too much away from it. Chris?
He's a good quarterback. I mean, you can't say he's not, because, I mean, you can't just throw anybody in there, I should say, because even when they had Nick Mullins in that in the offense with Kittle, Debo, and I mean, he wasn't doing that good.
Trey Lance.
And I mean,
Trey Lance,
Purdy making the plays, in my opinion. So, I mean, he's a good quarterback. I mean, he's not. That's another person who's just not going to beat the stigma of you as Mr. Irrelevant. So therefore, you should not be where you should be at right now. And so, it doesn't matter what he do. Everybody's going to nitpick that you just came into offense and it's already tailor made. But you wouldn't say the same thing with Patrick Mahomes if he came, because that's kind of like what he did. He came into offense that was already tailor made, and he was able to make stuff happen. I mean, he winning games, so that's how I think about it.
I think a lot of Brock Purdy's story is still to be written, though. Especially with what they have, what their ambitions are, especially this weekend, and then after that if they should win. After that, you know what I mean? So I
Who's to
can't
say they should?
take too much. Did you take a lot away from that game from his part?
I don't know if I wouldn't say that I took a lot away from it because I believed in Brock Purdy from the jump
That's
anyway.
true. Yeah, that's true.
Because, at the end of the day, I thought he was an MVP candidate. Throughout basically the entirety of the season, once we really started getting into, we could say at the beginning of the season, the first couple of weeks it's hard to tell who the fuck the MVP is. But once we started getting into like the thick of things, I obviously was riding with Lamar the whole season. But I also said at one point, it's Brock Purdy who should be the front runner because of how he was playing against great teams, because of not only how he was playing, his statistics, their record, everything that was going on. And then, obviously they get waxed by the Ravens and then Lamar kind of took it off from there. But, it's hard for me because I really want to get into this Josh Allen conversation, so we might as well merge it.
Okay.
We've been hearing so much this week, especially, and really just over the past couple of years, about the conversation where, obviously the one that is probably most famous and went viral, is Ryan Clark talking about how we're giving him too much credit. We're almost like we're babying him as a society. And then he also basically said he wasn't great. And then the conversation for me is, you want to sit here and tell me that Josh Allen isn't great, and we can get into some of the stats a little bit later, but you want to tell me that Josh Allen isn't great. Obviously, we saw with our eyes, like he put on a great performance this past weekend. He's put on great performances in the playoffs, and obviously they've come up short. But then we don't want to give credit to a guy like Brock Purdy, who in his first 2 years, he's gone to the NFC Championship. Who's to say, obviously we saw how the Eagles and the 49ers played, but some things, obviously things were different last year with the Eagles compared to this year. But who's to say if he doesn't get hurt, they don't go to the Super Bowl, and now he's looking at back-to-back Super Bowl appearances, maybe even back-to-back Super Bowl wins. And we don't want to give him credit, but there's also guys like, they didn't want to give Jimmy Garoppolo credit. Another quarterback that we're about to talk about, here in a few minutes, Jared Goff, is about to possibly take 2 different teams to a Super Bowl. And he was written off like he was trash. But they're giving credit to Joe Burrow. People want to give credit to Joe Burrow for getting to the Super Bowl, but he's missed the playoffs 2 out of his 4 years. So what do y'all feel like is the distinction between great? Like, where is the line? What's the line and what's the criteria? Because that's where I'm like, just listening to everybody.
The criteria is spectacular plays.
It's just a lot of groupthink going on, in my opinion.
And the reason I say spectacular, because Josh Allen is lauded for his ability to throw the ball deep, deep long shots. But that's not Jared Goff's game. He can do it, but that's just if you ever like just watching his game, it doesn't feel like exciting, I should say. And I think that's where all the stigma comes from as far as quarterbacks. Because even with Joe Burrow, he coming out of college, making all the plays, but again, he got all the receivers to make the play, to make the play look crazier than they are. And I think that's something that gets a lot of people, I ain't gonna say in trouble, but that's something that, pumps up other quarterbacks versus different ones. That's what I'm trying to say. And I think because again, Brock Purdy, we done seen him make some some plays and whatnot as far as throws, but then the argument is, but a lot of his throws come from like Deebo Samuel getting his yards after the catch and stuff like that. So it's like, well, he's making the play, not him. He's not moving around the pocket like a Patrick Mahomes throwing across the body and stuff like that. So I think that's where the issue comes in. But like you said, it's really crazy. Like Cass said, group thinking.
And even then, I hate that because it's like, do we not remember Tyreek Hill? Do we not remember Travis Kelce? Like, when Patrick Mahomes may be doing all that crazy stuff, but you still got to have dudes that's coming to catch it and then making plays. Like, one of the most controversial plays this season is obviously the Kadarius Toney being offsides. But the back end of that play was they were trying to drive for a game-winning touchdown. He throws a pass to Travis Kelce, who makes a crazy play to Kadarius Toney to get him to the score. So, like, But do we think the conversation was going to be that Travis Kelce made a crazy play or Pat?
It's
And
tough.
that,
Yeah, and it's they did a lot for him in those first 4 years, I guess you could say. They did a lot for him, Tariq and Travis. You know, I mean, it was a reason why that meme, like, fuck it, Tariq down there somewhere. It really was. Like, you really, like, I get you putting it out there, but a lot of times Tariq helps a lot. We kind of seen that with Tua this year. You make a quarterback look better than what he is. And, you know, like, he's a great quarterback. Pat is, of course. But, yeah, he got a lot of help. That shit matters. You know what I mean? You give a Josh Allen somebody like that, his game would change immensely. You give Jared Goff a guy like that, his game would change immensely. I mean, it's just it's tough because like it's like they saw Josh Allen in that Western, I mean not Western, but in that conference championship a couple years ago, go back and forth, and it just anointed him. But it doesn't matter. Like if it don't matter what you do during the regular season, if you're Brock Purdy or if you're a Jared Goff and what you show, it's like whatever you do, you ain't touching that. That game is like, I guess, like immortalized in their minds, I guess you could say. And that's kind of what all this leads to, honestly, which is kind of weird. It's weird how I don't know, how national media picks that up and runs with it, and without actually evaluating quarterbacks and games and everything. So it's tough.
So where are y'all on do you think that in these situations, do you think that guys like Brock Purdy and Jared Goff are rightfully given credit and Josh Allen needs to be given less credit, or vice versa? Josh Allen is rightfully given credit and Brock Purdy and Jared Goff, and, you know, if some of these other guys that people are calling game managers, blah, 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 should be given more credit?
Probably a little bit of both, I would say. I don't know. What you think, Chris? Because, I mean, it's weird tough. Because, like, you definitely could give more credit to Jared Goff and Brock Purdy, especially after the season.
That's what I was about to say. They got to give more credit. I mean, I think people, like you said about Jared Goff, like, do people forget that he actually, you know, had a shootout with Patrick Mahomes when he was with the Rams?
Yeah.
He had a whole shootout with this man. And like, he was the number 1 overall pick at some point. Like, he's not bad. He's like, but you know, what you say? They sent him to Detroit to purgatory to kill away.
And it's crazy because they were saying everything under the sun about this man. They were saying, oh, he's made by Sean McVay, blah, blah, blah. And now all of a sudden, I mean, obviously they're going to try to say he's made by Ben Johnson. We're all assuming that Ben Johnson is probably going to get a job. The reports is he's likely going to be with Washington. So next year, if they don't have this same year, which is, I mean, it's going to be incredibly tough to get back to the conference championship or even the Super Bowl. But they're going to come at his neck and be like, you know, it was Ben Johnson. So it's they build you up to tear you down. Then now they don't want to give you enough credit when you do stuff. So it's like, it's crazy.
You can't win.
Can't win at all. But given that, you know, another reclamation quarterback that was kind of left for dead was Baker Mayfield on the other side for Jared Goff. I mean, they had basically a shootout. I mean, it was a back and forth. What a great game from the two of them. Baker goes for 349 yards, 3 touchdowns. He obviously had 2 interceptions. Jared Goff had 287 yards, 2 touchdowns. And it came down to the wire. What did y'all think of that game?
The bake show, Chris. No, yeah, it was a great game back and forth. Of course, it came down to, you know, a last drive, a very damning pick on Baker's part.
It was very tough, but a great play.
I will say, I was not expecting everybody to be so light on him as they were like this week as far as media. They still, you know, say, oh, Baker should still get the contract. Baker, you know, still had a great season. So they were like, nobody was hard on him. Even his teammates, we seen kind of stick up for him and post game about that interception. As bad as it was, as bad timing as it was. But like Baker, I mean, he showed that he's still a serviceable starter in this league. We talked about it in our last episode. You know, we wasn't expecting it. Definitely hit me out of nowhere. But good for him. But
should we not be expecting it? Because just like Chris said, he's a number 1 overall pick for a reason.
But yeah,
he obviously got hurt that year that, you know, everything went to shit. But at this point, you know, he's 2-2 in the playoffs, 10 touchdowns, 3 interceptions over the course of his playoff career. I mean, he's got as many wins as Dak Prescott.
All I can say is, Cleveland got to be kicking themselves in the ass.
Yeah.
Kicking themselves somewhere. Shit.
Because, shit. Bake's showing out. And it's like, he paid all this money for a quarterback that, I don't know. But, nah, he showed out, though, for real. Like, I know we was talking about last week, and it's getting more prevalent. Like, yes, they got to give him a contract. Like, it's
For
just
sure,
like,
yeah. You gotta pay.
he their quarterback for like, yeah, he got to get a contract
And
for
I
them.
feel
There
like
is no ifs, ands, or buts about it at this point.
I feel like he fits like Tampa, like more so than Cleveland. Like Cleveland, it kind of made a little bit of sense because he's kind of the underdog. They're the underdog, but I feel like just in terms of personality, like type of quarterback you'd expect in Tampa, and even a quarterback to, as weird as it to say, like follow Tom Brady, that wouldn't be like scared of the moment. I feel like
Yeah.
Baker kind of fits that. But on the other side, Jared Goff, what a story for the Lions, man.
Hell of a season.
Hell of a season they're having. They had their rookies playing well. Amon-Ra St. Brown continues to play well. Brian Branch, he balled out the entire game. They got something to build on, and it's interesting because they did draft a quarterback in Hendon Hooker. Is that somebody that you're looking at for the future? Like, are you looking at to move off? He is a little older, but are you looking to move off of Jared Goff at some point, or
That's
is
tough
this
because Jared Goff only 28, right? He's 29, 28.
Yeah.
So it's
exactly.
like, is and Hayden Hooker, what, 24? Like
25.
20. Like, that's so. How can you sit there and say, "Oh, Jared Goff got us this far"? Especially if he balls this weekend, we still got to wait and see more. His story is not over yet.
It is not guaranteed for the 49ers.
Not guaranteed at all. Not guaranteed at all.
Especially what I just seen from Aaron Jones.
Situation with Baker. You can't get off of Jared Goff because why? What? Like, see, and it's like, what is the reason for getting off him? Like, what? He's not flashy. So what? He's making plays out here. He's running his offense. He's doing it. But in this whole year, I done heard from different people just oh, Jared Goff, he's okay, but if you get the pressure up the middle, he's liable to throw a pick. Ain't that any quarterback?
Yeah.
Like, what are we talking about? Like
they were dogging him over that, which was a dumb decision when he turned around and kind of tried to throw it back. That was,
they killed it. Like, see, this is what we talking about. See, I'm like, okay, man.
He's just trying to make a play at the end of the day. Like, he's not trying to take that yardage. Like, he ain't trying to take a sack.
If let that happen, and Patrick Mahomes did, oh my God, what a play! He avoided the sack.
That's facts. Even if Pat Mahomes would have fumbled that shit, see, I see what he tried to do there. Like, he would have got it's just a different grace. Even it's so different. But I do feel kind of bad for Hooker though, because I feel like he could be a real serviceable quarterback in this league. But no, I don't think Detroit should move off of Goff. You got to keep rolling with this. It'll be tough when you're bringing in a new OC and having to change, some things and try to keep things a little bit of the same. It'll be a tough transition because I do also believe, like you said, Shad, that Ben Johnson is out of there for sure and getting a head coaching gig. So it'll be tough with that, but I think they should definitely stick with Jared Goff.
I think it's a perfect situation too. The team is fairly young.
Young, yeah. You got to roll with it. The team looks good, especially in that division. You got to roll with it.
Well, we say that in that division, but the Packers are right around the corner.
That's what I'm saying. So it's no point in changing up. Is what I mean.
Oh yeah,
you got to keep building.
Yeah. Okay.
Because of the competition.
But not enough's been talked about. Jared Goff really could be taking two teams to a Super Bowl appearance at this point. Puts him with the guys like Kurt Warner, Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, of some guys that have done it. What an accomplishment that would be. Do you have any faith that, let me frame this in a better question, not because, they have too many of these conversations. Can XYZ win in the playoffs, or do you think XYZ can win a Super Bowl? Here's a better question, in my opinion. How do you think that a Super Bowl win would affect Jared Allen? Josh Allen, Jared Allen, Jared Goff.
What would a Super Bowl do for him?
for him in people's eyes.
For
The
him,
crazy
it's
part
funny
about
because
it. Oh,
go ahead.
I would say like it would mean a lot, but in most people's eyes, it probably wouldn't change that much about their view of him. I just feel like that would be the route. I know it's weird to say, but I feel like if they go and win the Super Bowl right now, it'd be like, oh, that's a great story. Yeah. But they still wouldn't have Jared Goff in the top, 7 quarterbacks in the league or whatever. You know what I mean? That's kind of how I feel would still happen.
I was gonna say a little bit of opposite. I think it would, if he won, it would. I think people would start to remember that he did take another team to the Super Bowl.
I
That
would
did
hope so.
happen, and he has been successful in the playoffs. I was gonna say, I think for Brock Purdy in general, if he win, it wouldn't change shit. I don't think that would change anything if
Really?
Brock Purdy win. Unfortunately, I really think that they got in their head like he's Mr. Irrelevant. He should not be like this. I'm pretty sure everybody in their mind like drop him on some other team. He is bad, and I really think that at this point it's like no, it's Christian McCaffrey, no, it's Kittle. Like they carrying the load for him. So even if they win the Super Bowl, it ain't him. But I really think it would probably change a lot of people's perspective. Again, Kaz, will he be top 5 quarterback? No.
Which
but
would be he would have an argument to it for sure.
Facts.
Which side do you fall on, Shot?
I don't know because I would have him. I'd probably have him in my top 10 or like borderline top 10. So I mean, obviously a Super Bowl win for me would be 100% like he's a bona fide top 10. But do you put him over a guy like Justin Herbert? Do you put him over?
Yes.
He would easily be over.
No, he's over
Dak
Justin
Prescott.
Herbert. I don't care what nobody's. I don't mean cut you. I don't care to see that's that talent versus he got all the throwing time in the world. Okay, he has weapons.
Mm-hmm.
He has legit weapons from the receivers to the running back. No, and you put on performance like that, like you did last year. And then y'all team. I mean, I understand you had injuries here and there this year, but you supposed to be the force multiplier that they talk about. This is the difference maker they be talking about, right?
So what about Trevor Lawrence?
A lot of people would still put Trevor Lawrence over him. Crazy as it is, a lot of people would. A lot of people, and that's
they would, but they shouldn't.
Here's an interesting one, and I'm interested to see. Yeah, I'm sure y'all can know where I'm going with this. What about Jalen Hurts?
I thought you were gonna say Dak. Jalen
He's
Hurts
over Dak already, in my opinion.
I mean, I would say this, yes, and he should be. He's been in the league longer. He's been to Super Bowl just like Jalen Hurts, and he was able to take another team to the Super Bowl and then win it. Yeah.
Do you think that we elevated Jalen Hurts, or not necessarily we, but do you think that people elevated Jalen Hurts a little bit too quickly? Because obviously now we've seen a little bit, and not to get too much on the Eagles, obviously we've seen it's been a few articles now at this point talking about his personality, talking about how people have questioned his leadership or if he's too stoic, whatever the bullshit is. Do you think that it's another situation of people building you up to tear you down? Because I mean, he did obviously become hella more rich. He did obviously start getting probably a little bit more notoriety. He was in magazines, niggas hating on him, women loving on him. So do you think that people, because of that Super Bowl performance, do you think that people kind of put him? Because I mean, people were trying to. I mean, obviously his coach said this, so it kind of led to it. But people were saying, he could be like a Michael Jordan or like a, that type of leadership, or like even maybe top 3, top 4 type quarterback in the league.
I would say yes. I would say this. He kind of reminds me of like when Lamar came into the league, same thing. But I think if Lamar would have did, I think the same stuff that was happening would have kind of happened with Lamar if he would have went to the Super Bowl so early in his career. And then didn't, and then the next year he have a bad year. Then he'll start getting a rap of the black quarterback can't read defenses or whatever the case may be. But I mean, I think so. I mean, he's young. He's actually. I mean, he hasn't been in the league. Well, this will be his coming on his 4th year. Well, yeah, 5th year actually. Yeah, because
just finished.
He didn't start his
4th
year.
Starting season.
Right.
Season starting.
Right. So I mean. That's a fair point to say that they put him up too high too quick once he went to Super Bowl, had a crazy ass performance.
That's kind of that's the side I fall on too. Like that definitely has some legs to it as far as like the hype that he got. But I mean, you got to give it to him. He had a fantastic season last year. They did as a team. He had a fantastic run at the right time to get paid the way he did. It was perfect timing on his part. So of course, when you get paid that amount of money, a lot comes with that. So you gotta kind of accept the criticism that you're getting right now, where people are like, "Well, if you look back at it, he really only had just one good season." Like you gotta, that's just what comes with it, unfortunately.
So do you think, because Chris mentioned that he's young, and do you think that because a lot of these quarterbacks at this point are young? I mean, there's the old head is Aaron Rodgers, and obviously he didn't play. Matt Stafford is obviously a little older. Some of the older guys, Russell Wilson, pretty much irrelevant, no disrespect. But the prime quarterbacks right now, the quarterbacks that are leading the way, the top quarterbacks are all fairly young. Do you think that we're trying to, or society or the media is trying too hard to put the legacy talk, legacy play? Obviously, Patrick Mahomes kind of deserves that. At this point, in my opinion, Lamar deserves that. But do you think we're too early, too quick to be like legacy, legacy, legacy? He's got to do this, he's got to do that, instead of letting it just play out.
Yes, that's an interesting conversation. I'm glad you brought that up because I think that's Patrick Mahomes' fault. Not in a bad way, but when you come in and have instant success like he's had, and you make the conference championship every single year that you're a starter, that rubs off on everybody else. Everybody else's perception of what a young quarterback should look like and not take into effect like what we talked about earlier. It all ties back into it, what you're surrounded by. So yeah, when you got Patrick Mahomes at 24 years old, 25, 26, 27, 28, making the conference championship every single year, then you see a 24-year-old that come in and snap for one season, which he still has a lot of room to grow, both mentally and physically, like Josh Allen, and then he struggles a little bit. You want to write him off early? Like it's weird how they're doing it now. Because a lot of quarterbacks, we've seen a lot of quarterbacks take a little bit of time to get going. Like, and quarterbacks are, that, and, some linemen play until their late 30s. You have a lot of time with these quarterbacks. Josh Allen has probably 12, 13, 14 more years in the league. Like it's a lot of stories to be written. So I think it's very interesting, that point that you just brought up, as far as like build up so early in their career, because it really is a lot of time left. Drew Brees didn't get going until how long is it in his career? I know there's injury concerns there, but same type of shit.
Yeah, I mean,
that's facts. I mean, I kind of want to compare the two. I mean, you might not like it, Shy, but I mean, Josh Allen, his career is kind of like Peyton Manning in the sense of he was going crazy in the regular season, but he didn't have the success of making it to the Super Bowl till later. But I mean, he was doing what he's supposed to do. I don't knock him for his earlier, I guess you could say, downfalls or whatever you want to say. But as far as them losing in the playoffs and not being able to get to Super Bowl, but so many times in general. But it's like for Josh Allen, he loses to a great quarterback in Patrick Mahomes. Now he just
right. It's like
where did he go from now? Like his career, this is like, what are we talking about?
Yeah, it's weird, man. Same thing that's happening that they were saying about Lamar. It's these quarterbacks have a lot of time, like a shit ton of time left in this league to still.
And that was kind of the next thing. I'm glad that you brought that up, because so I'm not annoyed by the comparison, but what I say is a better comparison. I think I've said this before, is Patrick Mahomes is Peyton Manning with Bill Belichick, where he got the actual rings and had because Peyton Manning, when he was the league MVP, he was the guy setting all these records. It was just that obviously he played poorly in the playoffs as well, but some of those deeper runs, like the times where he did start getting it going, it was a product of the team. Whereas Tom Brady, because obviously we heard a lot about the Patrick Mahomes versus Josh Allen's, Tom Brady versus Peyton Manning, blah, blah, blah. Like Tom Brady it really in this situation, Brock Purdy. the game manager that people didn't really think was that good.
People don't like to remember that,
but
though. People want to rewrite
and people do want to rewrite it so bad. It makes me so mad. It makes me so mad because when we were like them years when it was Peyton Manning, Drew Brees, Tom Brady. Peyton Manning was the best quarterback in the league, and there was no question. Well, if you want to, the only question about it was there was a little hesitation because Brady had three rings, and he got those 3 rings early, and then he went on a drought, and then that's when Peyton started beating him. He got his ring. He went to a second one, obviously lost against the Saints, but it was different. Like there was, the Colts, even though they had Tony Dungy and he was a good coach, they weren't always a dominant defense. They had one year where they were, one of the top defenses in the league. They obviously had 2 great pass rushers, but the Patriots always seemed to have a top 10. Well, I'm pretty sure they always had a top 10 scoring defense throughout his entirety of his career. So it's like stuff like that. And I'm like, it's not necessarily a fair comparison to Josh Allen because Josh Allen wasn't winning MVPs. Like people forget Peyton Manning has 5 MVPs. Like he has the most MVPs in the history of the league. Like
That's
been to
crazy.
4 Super Bowls, lost 2, won 2. I mean, he was different. He was different. He set the NFL up for what it is, how it is right now. And even then, like people try to compare Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Pat to that age, that glory time of quarterbacks where it was Phillip Rivers, Ben Roethlisberger, Eli, Peyton, Drew Brees, all of those guys. And it's just like, let them write their own story because it's different.
Yeah.
Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, they're not those guys because even Lamar, they are not pure pocket passers. You have to be at this point, aside from Joe Burrow, and we're kind of seeing it with Joe Burrow. He keeps getting hurt. You have to be a dual threat quarterback. You have to. And I don't know. The conversation is just so funny to me. Like everybody wants that. Everybody wants everybody to be great, and I get it. But I guess the conversation for me where, so we can go ahead and switch to the Kansas City Buffalo Bills game. Obviously, we all saw the game. It came down to the late field goal. That's not the reason they lost, if you can say that, by Tyler Bass, my fellow Georgia Southern alum. Shout out you. But it obviously came down to that. It was wide right. People are going to say, Josh Allen can't get over the hump, blase, blase, blase. But for me, it's like when I heard Ryan Clark say on Get Up that following Monday or Tuesday that we're giving him too much credit, we're calling him great when he's not, other guys had to go through this, blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, other guys may have had to go through this, but at this point, like, and this is kind of what I felt like Dan Orlovsky was saying, is like Josh Allen has thrown for 21 touchdowns and 4 picks over his playoff career. I'm pretty sure he has, let me see here, he has 5 more touchdowns on the ground. So 26 touchdowns, 4 picks in the entirety of your playoff career. We hear those numbers. You're not thinking of dudes taking losses. People wanted to give everybody's been saying he's not Joe Burrow, he's not Patrick Mahomes, blah, blah, blah. Joe Burrow threw for 5 touchdowns and 2 picks the entirety of the 4 games that he played on his Super Bowl run. Josh Allen in this playoff run alone, like, this is the stuff that's crazy to me. Josh Allen in this playoff run alone had, 10 touchdowns? It's 7 touchdowns, 7 total touchdowns, no turnovers. In 2 games, he had 7 total touchdowns, no turnovers. But you want to tell me Joe Burrow is better than him because he had 5 touchdowns over 4 games? Come on. Like, it's like, what are we talking about at this point? And I get it. It's not all about stats, and people want to say, oh, he didn't make the plays. What is not making the play? Because if I get you down to a field goal and you miss, did I not make the play? Like, just because I didn't get a touchdown?
They acting like that wasn't Brady's signature in the Super Bowl.
That's what every quarterback does. That's what
the craziest shit to me is. So everybody says that Josh Allen didn't make the plays, right? So if he does make the kick, everybody would have been expecting Patrick Mahomes to go drive down the field in hopes that his field goal kicker could make the kick.
Yes.
So like, what it's like, what are we talking about here?
Yeah.
Like, it's stupid shit. It's all stupid shit. But that leads me to this question for y'all, because we are talking a lot about and kind of bashing the national media a little bit, but we are talking about national media. Do you guys feel that a lot of it has to do with we have so many guys, and I don't want to, this is kind of a weird question, but because we have so many guys that are former athletes that are on national TV, but if you think about it, they're specifically champions for the most part. Troy Aikman is an announcer, champion, but he typically speaks more respectfully of players than some of these other guys. But even Shannon Sharp, champion. Ryan Clark, champion. Swagoo, he hasn't won a champion, but he did win a championship in college. But he's been in a long time, been there a long time. Even on Speak, you have James Jones, champion. Shady McCoy, champion, 2-time champion. You have all these guys that have won championships. So even Jeff Saturday, champion. Dan Orlovsky's not necessarily a champion, but once again, he's been around the league for a long time.
So Chris Canty, champion.
Do you think that because there's so many people that are champions, they're trying to sometimes I feel like they try to cap. They try to cap. They speak. Shaq. Even in the basketball world, obviously we have Charles, and they always make it a point to say hey Charles, you didn't win, but you had prominent voices, Draymond, Shaq himself, Kenny, all guys that have won championships, and it's they be trying to cap, they be trying to Shaq. You hear Shaq sometimes talk on NBA or inside the NBA, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I need him to go get 37 and 16 in a dub." Nigga, you wasn't doing that every goddamn game, bro. Come on, bro. Yeah, he needs to have I need him to go dominate. He was talking about Julius Randle the other day. Julius Randle's supposed to be 28 and 12. My nigga, Julius Randle has never averaged 28 and 12 in his life. What do you mean? What do you mean? I don't understand. They be trying to cap. They be trying to big up what it actually is.
It's definitely a trend in how these guys are coming in now. Unrealistic expectations, and definitely boosting their past, accomplishments, and judging them to an era that was not the same as this era. And that's kind of what we're seeing a lot with these guys in the media. It's different. It's just different now. And that's what you have to judge it on. Don't judge it on the shit that you did or didn't do back in the day. It's totally different rules, totally different pace, tempo, play call styling. It's different. But they don't want to, I don't know. They don't want to
act like it was supposed to be so easy.
Yeah.
Ryan Clark, it's just bro, we weren't having the same conversation about Ben Roethlisberger. Come on, dog.
He had a long career.
He had a long career, and over his last few years, definitely over his last decade, he wasn't showing up doing nothing for real. And you wasn't out here saying that. Come on.
Yeah.
It grinds my gears. So not to say that they're even Mike. We forgot to say Michael Irvin, Keyshawn Johnson on Undisputed.
Yeah.
Shout out Michael Irvin. But Sherm, yeah, even though he be hating. But it's not to say that their voices shouldn't be respected, especially once again, we have to, we're not in the NFL. We're not champions. So
that's true.
It's not to say that their voice shouldn't be respected, but it's sometimes I'm like, bro, we all watched y'all's career. We saw that it wasn't just peaches and cream. Why are y'all trying to act like it's supposed to be oh, if you're that guy, you gotta have it, you gotta make that play. So what the hell happened all the other years when y'all wasn't winning? Were y'all not that guy? Come on. Come on, bro. It's a lot of cat that be going on, and we need to calm it down. But with that being said, obviously, once again, the Bills are 0-3 against the Kansas City Chiefs. And shout out to Kansas City Chiefs. I know a lot of conversation has been about the Bills and their struggles, but shout out to the Kansas City Chiefs once again making another conference championship, kind of as expected, like people would say. But this conversation is not about you. Back to the Bills. Do you think that the Bills need to make some changes, major changes, minor tweaks? Obviously, we talked about it a little bit throughout the season when we thought maybe their season might be over. They obviously make it to the divisional round, 2 seed. Do you think that we need to see a coaching change? Do you think that we need to see get Diggs out of there? And some people say get Gabe Davis out of there. Obviously, he's a free agent.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them older guys on defense, Von Miller.
I think you definitely need. You definitely need coordinator changes. I mean, you automatically look for offensive coordinator because Joe Brady was only interim. You got to figure out what you're going to do with him. If you're going to promote him full time now, going into the next season, or look somewhere else. And Joe Brady's had a couple of interviews elsewhere too as well, so that might be out of their hands. But I think as far as head coach, I think McDermott, I think he saved his job to the point that he got. It was looking bad, but to go on that run that you did at the end of the season to the playoffs, and he is a good coach. It's tough to sit there and fire a coach like that, and especially I get, we had our conversation too about okay, you can go out and get a Vrabel or get a Belichick, but that depends on if they even want to do that, if they even want to go there. You just never really know what they're thinking on their side too. But I think they should keep Sean McDermott and kind of adjust the coordinators. Stephon Diggs, different story. I have no idea. We saw that report that came out saying that he's not going to ask for a trade and he's committed to next season, blah, blah, blah. But I
think he can be traded anyway.
Yeah, I don't know about none of that. But he does bring drama, and he brought drama in the beginning of the last season, going into the season, beginning of this season, going into the season. Will that be the same kind of trend that you see? It's a lot that comes with Stephon Diggs. It's a lot that comes with it, but I just think coordinators first. I think you should definitely keep Stephon Diggs because what else do you do? There's not a lot in the free agency market. So
I think they need to be aggressive in getting some. It's tough because
they need to go get Mike Evans on God.
I really think they should go get Mike Evans. Honestly, I think they should, or they should try to go all in and doubling down on a receiver in the draft. Like you maybe trade down, get a pick up a second two, and draft double receivers. Go heavy in defense. Maybe get some young guys that can play, fill out some depth.
Are you saying
some competition?
Are you saying this with Stephon Diggs, complimenting him, or
They can't get rid of Stephon Diggs. Basically, the contract is it's just not going to happen. Basically, and he's also 30, 31. Which it's surprising that he's even that old at this point. It just
I didn't think he was that old.
Yeah, he's 31. So it's looking at a point where it's what are you even going to really get for him? You're going to get a fourth round pick. Is that really worth it? You're not going to get a first.
Somebody going to give up a second for him? What? Oh God.
I doubt it. They just wouldn't give up a second for DeAndre Hopkins. I don't know if they'll give up a second for Stephon Diggs, especially how he ended the season.
That's fair.
And it ended up being DeAndre had to get cut and all this and that. And it seems that people weren't willing to give that up for Devontae Adams either.
Especially when you see the receivers coming out of the draft and being good very quickly. Mm-hmm. I think that changes a lot of the conversation. So I agree. I agree with that. Yeah.
Oh, we didn't even speak about Jaden Reed, Dontavian Wicks earlier. We were talking about our rookies, but I think they should change the coach. I still think they should change the coach because one of the things that came out in that article was talking about how they get tight during, tough moments, during tight games. Did they not feel tight that entire last drive? Even though they were moving the ball, the entire fourth quarter, they did not just feel tight on both sides, really.
It was both sides.
But it was both sides.
Yeah.
But the fourth, obviously the Chiefs made the play, but obviously we're gonna have to talk about the DeMar Hamlin fake punt. It did just so happen that the Chiefs did have 10 players on the field, so that could have led to it. But it just in that moment against that team, it's stuff like that. It's just stuff like that. That's okay.
That's that Brandon Staley special right there.
Are you the right guy? Are you the right guy? And that's not to say that he's a bad coach, because I do think he's a good coach, but there's a difference between good coaches and coaches that lead you to the promised land.
Yeah.
And, I think they should go get Bill Belichick. That discipline, they need that discipline because we talk so much about how they don't get blown out. They're always in close games. It always seems to come down to the late blunder by Josh Allen or by the defense, or I don't even know if you guys remember when against the Vikings last year when they basically won the game. All they had to do was kneel the ball, but they were on the goal line, and then they ended up going into overtime with the Vikings. It's just silly shit, like just silly shit. And I feel like that discipline, and then also maybe kind of reverse the curse, because that curse, starting off with the 4 straight Super Bowls that they lost, started off against Bill Belichick and the Giants. So that would be interesting, just on some voodoo shit. But I think they should. I really think they should. It's at this point where I feel like it's run its course. You already have had people and sources and leaks and say this, that, and the third about Sean McDermott. You've gone through a bunch of coordinators at this point. You had a coordinator retire abruptly. Fired another coordinator during the season. It's like, when do you say when? If it's not now, then when is it?
That's tough though, Chris. What you think? Think I should get rid of Sean?
I think they should get rid of him, but I don't think they will though. It's interesting because they had a lot of injuries this year too. So
they did, and they did.
They did. They really did.
I feel like, man, they would have won that game if they had some of their players. But that's why it's tough. It's like, damn, and like you said, Cass, for him to basically have to win the last 6 games of the season, or 5 or 6, wherever that was, and you have to win every one of them. He did. I felt like that's the soul. Like if he would have won all of them, then lost the last one, then make the playoffs, he would have got fired.
I think so too. But it's like you put him in, you got him up to the 2 seed. I get that's, you still didn't get where you wanted to go, with this season, but that shit was an accomplishment in my opinion, especially with how that team was trending. So.
I think it would have been better if they would have made the conference finals. If they would have been playing in the conference championship right now against the Ravens, then we could look and be like, okay, it's not broken. But at some point, it's like you're staying stagnant. This team is good. You have your, like I said, 26 touchdowns, 4 turnovers. You shouldn't be losing those games. And the last few games that they've been playing, they've given up 30 points, 37 points, 30-ish points each game. I think the defense is averaging 30 points. It's averaging 30 points against each of their last few losses. So it's like, that's his bread and butter. You really don't. I don't know. It just, I'm like, you don't need too much fixing. It's just you need I feel like they need a different voice. Even if you take a step back in terms of record in the offseason or in the regular season, like the decision making, the playing, having the team play a little bit more loose, making smart decisions. Because how often do you see Stephon Diggs dropping a bomb like that? How often do you see him? Which, I mean, maybe it's of old age, but it seemed like the Bills. It seemed like in the fourth quarter they just got tight. Like they didn't make the plays that was necessary. It's the only person that came to play was the 2 young guys, really, Shakir and Kincaid, for the most part.
Yeah.
They needed your boy, Shy Gabe.
He might have caught them passes though, because as it seems, he
big play Gabe.
That's all he do. That's all he do.
We'll see what they do. I haven't heard anything coming out of there as far as his, and job security. So. I don't know.
It's been a few days. So, at this point, it's probably not likely. I think they already had an exit interview earlier this week as well. But, with that being said, since we're on the topic of coaches,
let's do it.
We've had a few coaching hires this week. We've had a few surprise firings. Like I said earlier in the lead, both in the NBA and the NFL. We can go ahead and start in the NFL since we've had the biggest news just most recently. Jim Harbaugh signing with the Chargers and becoming their head coach. He's leaving Michigan. What do you guys feel about that? Probably the coaching hire that everybody's been waiting on for really the past few years.
Yeah.
But Harbs and Herbert, man.
It's good to see Jim Harbaugh back in the league. Mm-hmm. It was fun. Like the run that he went on with the 49ers was fun. I know there's a lot to it as well, especially with Alex Smith and Kaepernick. I think that's probably the best spot for him. Mm-hmm. And I think he identified that pretty early. I really think it was just really Chargers or Michigan. And I feel like he made up his mind about Michigan. Like, he's done. I don't think he's going to go anywhere else but the Chargers. There's a lot of smoke to that. Been a lot of smoke. We were just waiting on the particulars to kind of iron out. It took longer than I expected. But I had a feeling this will always come. So I'm not surprised. I'm glad it's finally done. I can't wait to see what he does with that team. And like we said, Chris, that team has a lot of talent. They have to make a lot of decisions.
So we think.
I was just about to say they got a lot of decisions to make.
They have to make a lot of decisions, of course. But that's something that Jim is good at too. So we'll kind of see how it goes. But not mad at that hiring at all.
No, I think it's perfect. I think with the situation with Jim is one of the things where since he come in, even though he had obviously coached for the 49ers, but I feel like bringing him in from Michigan gives you I don't want to say the time, but it allows you to start building up towards whatever you're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like if they would have hired somebody like Bill Belichick, they would have need to be doing something right now. Like it need to be tailor-made, ready to go. Like, but I feel like with them hiring Jim Harbaugh, that kind of put them in the perspective of, maybe next year we might not be where we want to be, but we can. I got a coach that I know going to build us towards that. And so, like we said earlier, it's going to be, they got decisions to make at receiver, Mike Williams, defensive decisions to make. So, I mean, it's going to be interesting, but I think out of anybody, I think he can probably get them quicker to where they want to be and probably make next year very, very competitive.
It'll be interesting, especially in that division.
And that's what I was just about to say. It's very interesting not to slight or doubt Antonio Pierce, but now you're in a division with Andy Reid, Jim Harbaugh, and Sean Payton.
Yeah.
And being a first-time head coach, it's gonna be tough. I mean, it's gonna be interesting to see where the Raiders go at quarterback as well, because you do have. Well, we don't know who the Broncos coach or quarterback is going to be next year. We know it's not going to be Russell Wilson. We assume that it's probably not going to be Jarrett Stidham either. But it starts to get tough also for Patrick Mahomes, in my opinion, because as different as Patrick Mahomes is, there's a day coming for Andy Reid in terms of when he's probably going to hang it up. At the end of he's getting older and older. There's going to be a time where he's hanging it up. Is that something that's coming sooner rather than later? Is it coming later rather than sooner? We don't know yet, but that will be interesting to watch and kind of see, because if you don't hire a great coach that goes along with it, and Jim Harbaugh is, maybe the best coach in that division, how things could tilt, to be very fascinating.
That's true.
But on top of that, we had the coordinator hires of Shane Waldron coming from Seattle, going over to Chicago, which in my opinion kind of I did see some reports that said they kind of threw this in that when they were doing the interviews for OCs,
that Flus was speaking up for.
Yeah, Matt Eberflus was standing up for Justin Fields, which, if that had to be reported, that sounds more like agent speak, in my opinion, than anything.
It was just thrown in there too,
but
the parentheses.
That seems to be a good hire. I mean, he's obviously done a great job with Geno and Drew Lock over the past couple of years. So is that one that you guys liked, or were you guys looking for somebody more like a Cliff Kingsbury or somebody else?
I mean, that's from what I heard about potential replacements. There was Cliff, and then Zach Robinson, who was part of that McVay tree. I don't hate this at all. I mean, any coordinator going in there, it's a great spot to be in. It's a great position to be in, because you're either going to have pretty much your choice of quarterback, or you working with a very dynamic quarterback, which we don't know exactly who he is yet. Maybe you feel like, you were confident enough to get enough out of him. We just don't know. But when you bring in a guy like Shane, and after what you've seen, what he did with Geno, it gives you a little bit of confidence if you're like a Bears fan. It gives you a little bit of confidence, like, okay, I can get behind this either direction they go. Because you can really, right now, you can go either direction and still like kind of feel all right about it. So,
no, I mean, it's a good hire. I don't hate it. Like Cass said, it's one of them things where you got your choice. I mean, anybody love to be in that position. you got the number 1 overall pick. So at this point, you already got a quarterback there. Could go get one. You could do what you want to do. And you can and I'm pretty sure they talked about that extensively in his interview. So
Yeah.
They hired him. They must like what they heard. But he
It's
did a
good,
great
yeah.
job with Geno. So he maximized him more than what anybody else could have or have done. So
Yeah.
not bad.
Did you like it, Shot? How'd you feel about it?
I mean, yeah, I like it. I thought it was a great hire for them. I definitely was a little nervous about the Cliff Kingsbury because I'm not too sure about how Cliff Kingsbury is going to be as a play caller. So that's definitely a good step in the right direction. I'm interested to see because, obviously Geno's not necessarily like, he's not like a Caleb Williams type in terms of where he's scrambling out of the pocket, trying to make plays off platform and stuff like that. So it'd be interesting to kind of see, what direction they do go with the quarterback position in terms of if we're looking at a Drake May or Caleb Williams. Obviously, we'll learn more as the draft comes along. And we're going to learn a lot more next week because the Senior Bowl starts next week as well. But with that being said, going back to the head coaches, we also saw Brian Callahan coming from the Bengals as their offensive coordinator and going over to Tennessee to be their head coach. We don't know necessarily how he's going to fill the staff at this point. There has been rumors that his father is going to come over from Cleveland, and the good job he's done over there to be their offensive line coach, maybe an associate head coach as well. Assistant head coach as well. But, how do you guys feel about that hire?
This one, maybe surprised a lot of people. I think the main thing is going from what you had to now. And then now that we're seeing a little bit more come out about what happened with Vrabel and how they just really wanted some more collaboration is how they put it, So when you look at it like that, it's not surprising that they went with a first-time head coach after getting rid of Vrabel. It's just not. I mean, we'll see how it goes. Of course, he has a very rich list of quarterbacks that he's worked with in the past. Callahan has, which could bode well for a guy like Will Levis, who's trying to find his foot in the league. But it's kind of just all this is really up in the air for Tennessee, in my opinion, because they still have to fix the receiver room, fix O-line play. It's a lot they have to still do on that offense before you can even see the fruits of this kind of signing, in my opinion. So he got his work cut out for him.
Yeah, he's one of them hires where it's like I couldn't give you my real thought about it until I see who he fills his staff with as far as OC and DC, because you just don't know. I mean, he's coming from the Bengals, but how much is one of the things, like how much was he involved as far as like the scheme?
Taylor was calling plays, so
right.
Yeah. So how much?
That's one of the things where it's like, okay, well, you might have been. What was you actually doing? Like, what was your role in it? And you could say what your role might have been, but we don't know.
Setting up the game plan,
right?
Yeah.
And so that's one of them. I don't have a problem with it because I see where they're transitioning to just a new ordeal in general in Tennessee. But it's still one of the things where I really want to know who is your OC, who is your DC.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I'm at with it as well. Obviously, like you mentioned, he's worked with Matt Stafford, Peyton Manning, Joe Burrow, obviously. So it'll be interesting to see. Obviously, they're definitely in a rebuild, but we say that at this point, but we don't know what it's going to look like, come the off season when some signings start to happen, trades start to happen, stuff like that. Everybody was saying the Colts and the Texans were in a rebuild, and we saw how those seasons turned out for both of those teams.
That's true.
In the same division, really. But yeah, I'm right there with Chris. It's going to be interesting to see how they fill out the rest of the staff. And it's funny we say that right after saying Jim Harbaugh, but we've seen Jim Harbaugh have success in this league and really success everywhere he's been. So it's a little different there.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. And thus far we haven't really had it's kind of been crickets on the coaching front. It's kind of just been a lot of thorough interview processes, which I think is kind of funny as a Colts fan, because last year when the Colts were going through their thorough interview process, I was a little stressed as a fan, but people were acting like the Colts can't hire anybody, nobody wants to go there, and all this nonsense, and then all of a sudden they come out with maybe the coach coaching hire that everybody thought was the best at the time, because obviously he's a OC, him and Ben Johnson. But I really do think that next week during the Senior Bowl, when everybody's kind of more around each other, all the executives around each other, we'll probably have all the rest of the breaking news. Obviously, it's in the middle of the Super Bowl weeks as well, so that gives a good opportunity to break some news ahead of this conference finals or conference championship. But of the remaining spots, who would you say are you guys? Obviously the Falcons is the Panthers are still open. Washington is still open. Seattle. Who do you guys think at this point is the most unknown in terms of where they're going to go?
For the most
Man,
unknown, I
would
say Seattle.
in my opinion.
Because I haven't really heard, like, I mean, of course, early on, it was like a lot of the Dan Quinn, and they did have their interviews with them, but it's been a lot of radio silence on their front, too, which I say that, but obviously it seems like Washington is just waiting for this conference championship to be over so they can talk to their top candidates.
They can officially sign Ben Johnson.
Yeah, so obviously it's quiet on their front. But I feel like the Falcons have been like, it's been way too much shit out there, in my opinion. And it's been way too much like back and forth, like people don't really know what they're talking about, kind of shit. It's got it kind of annoying, but you don't see the type of stuff with the Panthers and Seattle. So I would say Seattle would be the most unknown right now about like where to go, because you would think that it was DQ's job, but obviously it's not like that anymore. So I don't know. We'll see.
I mean, they could just be doing their due process and stuff like that. But I probably would say the Falcons, honestly, now that you said that, because I was going to go with the Panthers, but the Panthers did just sign a GM, so we could see things kind of move a little quickly for them.
They're interviewing Vrabel tomorrow, the Panthers are, and I think that's a great fit for them. I
don't know how he'll mesh with the ownership, but I also saw
that's true too, but
I also saw that Dave Canellis from the OC from the Bucks is a strong candidate there, and I actually think that I might like that because he also did a good job with Geno. Obviously, just did a good job with Baker Mayfield this past year, so I would be interested to see that just for Bryce Young. But the Falcons, honestly, because they put it on. The Falcons are in a tough position. They're in a tough position, and I've talked about it numerous times. They're in a position where it's no realistic path towards building a future today or this offseason in terms of getting a quarterback in the draft or, getting up to one of those top 3 slots, top 4 slots. But they're also in a position where you've put a GM in a lame duck situation because we have heard there's a little bit of a power structure between Rich McKay, Arthur Blank kind of making the decisions where Terry Fontenot is just sounds like he's just along for the ride. Like he's like, hey, I got these questions that I want to ask. But it's kind of interesting because, we all thought at some point that it was looking like straight up Bill Belichick. Now we're hearing it's maybe could be Bobby Slowick or I think they interviewed Mike Vrabel today. Raheem Morris is supposed to. He was there before, and he's been interviewed twice at this point. So it's like, and then we're hearing the rumors about like, oh, if it is Bill Belichick, the reason that it hasn't been Bill Belichick at this point is because Rich McKay is there. And and it's like, well, why are we even talking about Rich McKay? What the hell is going on with Terry? What the hell is going on with that man?
Yeah.
And what is him and Bill Belichick? If it is Bill Belichick, what is that going to be like? So it's interesting. And I mean, he has previous experience working with the Sean Payton, who comes from that similar type of cloth. So, it might not be a big deal, but it's just interesting because it's just like you said, it's just a lot of stuff going on.
It's a lot going on.
It's hard to, and I'm sure whoever's making their pitches have probably been saying like, this year might be we got to ride it out with Ritter again. No cap. Like, or, there's been the rumors. There's been the rumors of Kirk Cousins. I don't know how realistic that is either, because why would we've heard the rumors that the Vikings, that the reports, I guess, rumors, whatever you want to call it, that the Vikings were definitely trying to give everything they could to get Anthony Richardson. Obviously that didn't happen. So once again, they're probably not they're just like the Falcons, not in a position really to trade up either. So what's their quarterback path look like? It's tough. It's tough.
I'm honestly at this point, as a Falcons fan, I'm ready to get this shit over with. If it's gonna be Bill, let's get this. Let's pull the trigger. Bring in Josh. Bring in Matt Patricia. Like we know it's gonna happen. And
I don't know if they're gonna bring in Matt Patricia.
Yeah.
Yo,
I don't know if they won't. You know what I mean? Is who else will be his DC? Who else will sign up to be Bill's
His
DC?
son.
We'll see if he comes with them. Yeah, we'll see.
If he stays,
unless he stays with the Patriots. But I'm just ready for this shit to be over, man. It's a lot going on. Which I will say, like, this is the most coverage that the Falcons have had in any offseason I can remember, and it's because of Bill Belichick and Jim Harbaugh, the interviews that they had with them. Which is not a bad thing. It's probably was Arthur Blank's planning all along. So I'm ready for this shit to get over with, man. We got Bobby Slowick tomorrow coming in for his second interview, and we're hearing that they were very impressed with him in his first one. But again, you had your worries about it, him being, only having 1 year play calling experience. Yeah. Maybe these guys interview well. I don't know.
He can very well. It's not like he necessarily has to be he might not even be the play caller. At the end of the day, he might not be the play caller. He might hire somebody to take over the play call. He might hire a veteran. He might bring, So like we said earlier with the Callahan hire, we don't truly know until we see the rest of the coaching hires, the rest of how the power structure is going to be between who's going to be the play caller, who's going to be defensive coordinator, how is that relationship going to work? Are you just going to let the defense run the defense? And obviously we just had a release of another defensive coordinator in Vic Fangio. Mutually parting ways with the Miami Dolphins. The assumption at this point is that they're going to the Eagles, or he's going to the Eagles and returning back to them after a year. But you never know. That was the assumption last year as well, in a sense that it could be him. And obviously he committed to Miami, so it was kind of made for kind of a tough situation. So his name's still on the board technically. Wink Martindale, his name's still on the board technically. The Falcons just lost their defensive coordinator and Ryan Nelson. That's he's going to the Jacksonville, and you would have liked to have seen maybe something be resolved by then, so that you could try to keep that continuity, especially having a great year a pretty good year last year. So it's interesting. It's definitely interesting.
It's like it's moving fast, but it's not. It's around them. I don't know. It's weird, man.
I think the Senior Bowl is gonna be we might have a conclusion at the end of the Senior Bowl, because obviously, if the Lions lose, that's another domino that's gonna fall probably almost immediately. The Ravens defensive coordinator has been in some talks, but it doesn't sound like anything super strong with him. The Ravens OC as well, Monken. There's been some talks about him, and what a run he'd be on. Back-to-back championships with Georgia, and then possibly getting the Super Bowl in his first year back in the NFL.
Would be crazy.
Three years back-to-back, crazy run. But before we head to our weekly picks, we got to switch to the NBA. And what a bombshell that we got yesterday.
Oh, man.
Adrian Griffin being fired from the Milwaukee Bucks. I think everybody probably expected if anybody was fired, it was probably going to be Darvin Ham, at this point.
Yeah.
And the Bucks are 30-14, 30-13 in the 2 seed in the East, tied for second or third best record in the NBA. And he gets fired mid-season, a la David Blatt. What'd you guys think about that?
Nah, y'all gotta explain that to me. Because I don't know.
He didn't even make it a full
they
season.
acting like
That's
I guess he just didn't mesh with the team. But you fire him to hire
Doc.
Your boy. That's your boy,
Glenn?
Chris. What you mean? That's your boy.
Yeah,
I feel the same way. It was a bit shocking. We have seen it. We talked about it first in our season preview when Terry Stotts just out of nowhere, quit or got released, or however you want to spin it. And that was always weird because it's like, Like, okay, what's going on there? Like what's going on in the inner workings there? And then you see throughout the season, they're winning games. A lot of their games they're winning because they're outscoring people. A lot of games that they're losing, they're getting their ass whooped because they can't play any defense. We saw the Pacers hand it to them 4 times. Like we see some bad losses from this team, but all in all, they're still the second seed. So it's like, well, what the hell? But then you see a lot of reports came out today, like by Woj and Shams saying that that he lost the locker room pretty much from superstars down to even bench to even
Which
bench
is
players,
crazy.
which is wild.
How do you lose the
lost
locker room
confidence.
and not even you didn't even make it to the All-Star break and you lost the locker room? Like you really
You
had to
lost
be
the
in there.
analysis?
Yeah, even him. That shit is wild.
They
because
said
like
they said that he wanted to cut the Nasty.
that's why they got rid of.
Hey, Twitter be going crazy with the bullshit, but they said he wanted to cut him. That's why he really got. That's why they really told him nah.
It really shows you how much Giannis's he has that organization by the balls right now, which is crazy. They're paying 3 coaches right now.
Mm-hmm.
Now, and apparently Doc's contract is very lucrative, and apparently he was dirty macking.
Yeah, definitely dirty macking.
So it's just a lot going on in the organization, and I don't think that type of shit leads to I don't think that like the way this is all come about. That's not a good way to go into the second half of your season into the playoffs.
So like what you gonna do? What you gonna not cut you up? But what you gonna do? You get to the playoffs, you lose second round.
Then it could be like, but like what the okay Doc? Like I get Doc. Everybody loves
Glenn.
Doc. I get that shit, but like, dude,
But that's not who you cut your coach for.
I've never seen a coach ride out one championship for 15 years, longer than that, going on 16 years now ago. He riding the shit out of that championship. Pause. Yeah, I ain't trying to hear that shit.
Super pause.
Yeah, but that shit is crazy. Like I get it, but like, dude, his track record speaks for himself.
Hey, but he could say that the egos wasn't there, the minds wasn't right. Because I mean, obviously he did have James Harden. Ain't no secret. He's a coach killer, and the Clippers are having a great season thus far. But at the end of the season, if it don't go the way it goes, there's no telling what happens to Ty Lue. Because I mean, it's just seemingly what happens. But I mean, you wouldn't think that happens, but then you have before with Chris Paul and Blake Griffin, and we've heard the different stories and rumors, and there's obviously some beef there.
Yeah.
Then following the Celtics, I mean, he got let go from the Celtics, but it wasn't necessarily like they were going through a transition period. It was time.
Different. Yeah.
So different circumstances have happened. Obviously, T-Mac and we all know about the injuries, and he's the most injury-prone player or whatever. His career, he would have been the GOAT if he didn't get injured and whatever other people say. But, no disrespect to T-Mac, but, he's had some situations. So maybe this is the right one. If they're saying that Giannis is bought in, if they're saying that Dame is bought in, because at this point, do we really know that, or can we take their word on that after getting a coach fired?
Yeah, bro, he dirty Mac and they bought in already.
So before we go any further,
games.
Can we define dirty Mac for the audience? Because it seems like niggas don't know what this is. So do y'all want to define it, or do you want me to define
it? Go ahead.
So dirty macking is basically when you got a little friend, when you got a friend and you trying to set them up for failure. Basically, you going and talking to the other side, so Doc, in this situation, they said that Doc was being consulting Adrian Griffin on how to, I guess, basically handle the season, handle the personalities, handle all the stuff that he needs to handle to be a good coach. But on the side, he's also talking to the Bucks, and they're kind of vetting him to see if he should be the coach. So Dirty Mackin basically is like, hey, I'm going to give you this advice to get you fired, to get you up out of there so I can slide in your position. So some niggas think, I don't know what other niggas think this is.
Yeah.
I don't know what folks think Dirty Mackin is, but Speak Up Sports Podcast definition of Dirty Mackin is whatever the hell Doc Rivers got going on.
That shit is crazy though. Like, to be a consultant and then midway through, they should have, I don't know. They handled this shit all wrong. That's
Oh,
a
that
very
mean they
bad look for
told
the
me
Bucks.
they told Doc you ready to take over. He said, "Yeah, I'm ready to go."
Yeah, I'm ready.
And I
But
said, "All
Which
right,
that's
you
crazy
out of
because,
there."
like, I mean, I get it probably would have happened regardless too if they'd even if ESPN didn't even sign Doc, but they changed the whole broadcast team, brought Doc in for him to leave not even
that's on
halfway through
them.
the season. Yeah, that's on them for sure.
That's
But
on them.
it's just Doc is.
How do you think Dame feels? Because this is somebody that, he said openly many times that he did not want to go to Milwaukee. He wanted to be in Miami. How do you think that looks for him? And do you think that there's more to the story on his side where he's like, man, maybe, and not trying to say that I didn't read this anywhere, just speculating, just asking questions. Is there a possibility that Dame could have been a little disgruntled and like, yo, I ain't doing that shit? Because we've seen the stuff about Giannis.
Yeah, it's very
Do you
That's
possible.
think?
facts. I mean, when you say that, that's not where he wanted to be, and it's like, okay, they're gonna try everything in their power to appease him. So if he like,
Mhm.
yo, y'all, I'm
He's
here
clean
now.
enough.
Like, I don't like him as a coach. Like, he's not like whatever he got us doing. I hate it.
That shit ain't
Y'all
gonna
gotta get
work.
him out of here. And I could legitimately see that.
I feel like a decision like this would have to come from both of them, Giannis and Dame, because this is a wild. Like, really look at it, like this shit is really wild. What just happened to Adrian Griffin? Like, I get like if you don't fuck with your coach, you don't fuck with your coach, but
Not even to the All-Star break in
not
the
even to
first
the
season.
All-Star break.
And he
You
ain't
need
do
to
no
get to the
Ime
trade
shit.
deadline. Let's see what you can get. Let's see what else you can bring in for it. It's
The
interesting.
fact
Trying
that
to
we're
trade.
talking about a 2 seed now, they not fighting.
They're not the
Oh,
Lakers.
They're not
They're
they
the
not the
barely
Lakers.
Lakers
They're
floating
trying
on
not
a
the
to.
six
Lakers.
Yeah.
seed. This is a 2 seed, and you told the coach, "Nah, you out of here, buddy."
That shit is crazy.
That's nasty. Very nasty. But we'll kind of see how it's shaking out right now. They're beating the Cavs. They're up. The Cavs are on like a 9-game win streak right now. So that's a good sign, even though they were already a good team. Just to see from the bounce back, because obviously it just happened yesterday. They're coaching with the interim coach right now.
Mm-hmm.
So good sign for them. I guess thus far, maybe we'll see like them take another step, especially defensively. As we move forward throughout the season, but it also could just be a personnel thing. Like, hey, you guys are just getting older. Chris Middleton, shaky legs.
Just not that guy anymore. Not that
Brooke
guy.
Lopez. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
But
So let's
switching
see
back to the
Matthews.
NFL, man, we got to get them weekly picks in. Obviously last week we had a little bit of a different circumstances going on last week, so we didn't get to our picks. I'm just gonna assume openly that both me and Chris would have probably went 3-1. Cass would have went 2-2. But what's our records looking like?
I mean, we add that in, sure. No, but at right now, you and this is going off based on that first round. So you and Chris are tied at 57, and I'm behind at 50. Well, are we putting in that Michigan and Washington?
We
one?
can.
All right, so Chris is in the lead at 58. You got 57. I'm behind at 55. And that was before this week. That was before this past weekend.
Mm-hmm.
We can assume I would have. I don't know. I mean, I definitely would have picked Buffalo 100%. I did pick Buffalo.
That was my one. All the
But
other ones I would have picked.
You wouldn't have picked the Packers?
I would have bet on the Packers, but I wouldn't have picked them.
That's fair. We could just roll into this weekend and just add them up from there.
Yeah, rolling into this weekend. We only got 2 games. 2 big games. We'll start off with the first one. Pat Mahomes versus Lamar Jackson. Action Jackson, the Ravens versus the Chiefs. The Chiefs getting to back-to-back Super Bowls, possibly 4 out of 5 years. Lamar obviously getting to his first one after having what we all assume, him getting his second MVP season. Who you guys got? It's for all the marbles.
This shit tough. Actually, you know what? It ain't that tough. I got the Ravens, bro. Oh God, I got the Ravens. I really think this is the thing. Is that's gonna be the biggest determining factor is that defense, and Buffalo defense is not that good right now. Like you've been saying, like they've been getting scored on. The Ravens defense, them boys come out to play. I was telling Kaz
Uh-huh.
when we were watching the game, I was just like, man, first of all, I didn't realize how tall Kyle Hamilton is. That nigga is tall as hell.
6'4".
But like, nah, that defense gonna make some plays out there, and I got the Ravens going to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, a few weeks ago, we had our Super Bowl picks, which was Ravens. I picked Ravens versus 49ers, and I had the 49ers win the Super Bowl. A little shaky on that right now, but I'm gonna stick with it on the Ravens side. I think they win. I don't think it's gonna be close. I don't think it's gonna be close. Honestly, I really don't. I don't think Kansas City is. I think it's about to hit them like damn, like this. This is a fucking team over here. This is a fucking juggernaut. That's kind of the feeling I'm getting. I mean, they took it to Houston, which I get. Houston's a young team, first time coach and everything, but they handled what they had to handle, and they're at home too. So that helps.
And I honestly, y'all already know who I got. I got the Ravens. I've had the Ravens, been picking the Ravens all season. And honestly, I honestly don't think it's going to be close either. The Kansas City Chiefs I doubted the Kansas City Chiefs all season. I've doubted the Kansas City Chiefs, especially towards the end of the season. I picked against them, or obviously we didn't make our picks last week. I would have picked them against them last week. I would have picked them against them again. I did pick against them against the Miami Dolphins, and they've proved me wrong both times. But both of those defenses were extremely banged up, and then got extremely more banged up during the game as well. But like you said, I just think it's truly Lamar's time. I think they're hitting on all cylinders. They started off a little rusty last week and then got right back to it. It just seems like it's just the Harbaugh's time in general too. Like the Harbaugh, Michigan just got a championship. John has an opportunity to go right back to another championship. Jim just signs with the Chargers. It just seems like all the stars are aligning, and they're just a better team. They've been a better team all season.
Yeah.
The quarterback play has been better all season. The defensive play has been better all season. And they're getting back healthy. Mark Andrews coming back. Marlon Humphrey's coming back. And honestly, I was gonna say it was gonna be a close game with like a Lamar Jackson game-winning drive, but yesterday I was watching an interview on the I think it's called Bussin' with the Boys with Taylor Lewan and Will Compton.
And
they had
crazy.
Derek. They did
facts.
Taylor
Lewan
Bussin' with the boys.
I don't know. Listen. I just got caught up last night, but they were on it. They were having an interview with Derrick Henry, and Derrick Henry was talking a lot about like how they knew. He's talking a lot about the season, obviously, and talking about a little bit about his future. It really sounds like the Ravens were really close to. He wouldn't say names because he's still under contract with the Titans, but he basically said like the Ravens were like it was there for them to trade for him at midseason. It was going to be between them and the Browns. Basically, that's what it's basically what he alluded to.
Pause. If he would have went to the Ravens, my God,
over.
Yeah,
even if he comes next year, it's over.
That's not healthy for anybody.
It's over. And but the main takeaway that I took is he said that 2019 season when Lamar won MVP and then Tennessee went up there and upset him, he was like, that was the craziest atmosphere I've ever been in, like college or NFL. Like he said, like it was so loud in there they couldn't hear each other. Like even when they were making plays, like they couldn't hear each other. And I really think that we talked a little bit about it with like Pat Mahomes being on the road and stuff like that. He obviously showed up in Buffalo, but I think Baltimore is about to get after it, and I'm rocking with Baltimore Ravens.
They feel it too as a team. They know they're this close to it.
It's written. I told y'all I watched the interview with Odell as well. Odell was even saying like, bro, like it's just written. Like he was kind of talking about like, God basically saying like God shows you things that you maybe against what you typically want. He kind of shows you where you should go. He was saying that he wanted to go to New York, and they were about to sign with the Jets, but the Jets were kind of playing him like they needed him and not or he needed them and not vice versa. And he was saying like the Ravens, they made the call and was like basically like if you get on that plane and go to New York, this contract is gone basically. Put the pressure on him. But he's just like, it just made sense. And it really did, like, in terms of the culture, in terms of who OBJ is, like, him being with Lamar finally kind of getting a dude or somebody that we think is a dude. So I'm just Odell getting his second one after being out for a couple years, maybe not even putting on the performance, fully putting on the performance in the Super Bowl that he wanted to. I think we get an Odell performance this week. I think we see some Odell doing something crazy this week.
I'm looking forward to it.
But moving to the second game, man, 49ers versus the Lions. I think this is a tougher game than I think people really anticipated it being coming into the playoffs and how things were going to look. But Jared Goff versus Brock Purdy, two guys on that have something to prove, that really want it, that really need it. Kyle Shanahan versus Dan Campbell, two coaches that got a lot to prove. Obviously, Kyle's been to multiple Super Bowls, been in the conference championship multiple times, but he's never won the big one. And Detroit, they've got something to prove. A lot of people's got something to prove in this one, man. Who you guys got?
Go ahead, Chris.
I got Detroit.
Oh,
I got Detroit, man.
Okay.
I like how they've been playing, like, just the end of the season, and even with the whole ordeal with the Cowboys game, they dominated that game in my opinion. It was two big plays that changed the course of that game, so that I'm not gonna count that. But Jared Goff, he been on the heater. He been dealing out there, and so I really believe that they're gonna come in there and they're gonna get this dub. It's gonna be crazy, but I think they're gonna win this though.
I got San Francisco, man. I can't pick Detroit in this one. Now they look a lot different when Debo is not in the lineup, or even when he's a little hobbled. We kind of saw that kind of rear his head when he got hurt against the Packers. It changes their whole game plan when he's out. Like you could just see it. But it's looking like he's going to try to give it a go. But I'm gonna trust Kyle Shanahan with this one to kind of come up with a game plan that's good enough, and kind of lean on the defense more to make big plays in this one. Your boy Fred need to step up, like for real.
No, that's facts. He has not been looking that good lately.
Yeah, I'm saying. So he has to step up in this one. I'm expecting him to. So I think the defense comes in huge with this one.
So this is another caveat pick for me. So I think that if Debo plays, regardless of if he's healthy or like fully healthy or if he's a little hobbled, I think they blow him out.
Okay.
I think they blow him out. I don't see how they stop. I mean, Mike Evans just went wild on him. Puka just went wild on him. Baker obviously had almost 400 yards passing on the Detroit Lions defense, even though he did have 2 picks. But I just don't see how they'll be able to stop Kyle Shanahan and what he schemes up if Debo plays. But if Debo doesn't play, I got the Lions just because simply, like, once the focus starts going on Ayuk, you're asking, Kittle and Jennings to make plays, which Kittle can, but Jennings, consistently, he made some plays in the Packers game and they really leaned on him, but him consistently having to do it, I'm not sure that's something I trust necessarily. And on top of that, kind of like you said, the defense has kind of been slipping a little bit, not playing as well as we expect them normally. And me watching Aaron Jones run all over that defense last week, even though it was a few big plays, it really has me nervous in terms of how they're going to stop Gibbs and Montgomery, because that's a dominant offensive line, and they're always going to have a good run game. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be a dogfight. It's going to be a dogfight. I say with Debo, it's going to be a blowout, but I mean more so they're going to pull away late in the end. Maybe due to like a costly turnover or something like that. But I mean, it's going to be a bloodbath more so than I think than the Kansas City Chiefs and Ravens. But I'm going to go ahead and rock with the caveat pick, but I'm leaning more towards the 49ers just because I think that Debo's going to play. But like I said, if he doesn't,
we're gonna see. It'll be interesting for sure. I can't wait.
Yeah, man. I'm looking forward to it, man. It's gonna be a good week. But aside from that, man, it's gonna be a great week. We about to get to the fucking Super Bowl, man. Like, Super Bowl. Hopefully they bring back the the Super Bowl commercial kind of like feeling that I feel like that's been kind of missing over the past few years. Obviously, we've got so much stuff that breaks on Twitter and Instagram and all this stuff.
Yeah,
But
that's
you
kind
know,
of that's why I chalk it up to, because everything kind of leaks. And I saw a leak yesterday of I think Selena Gomez or somebody. I had a Super Bowl commercial they were doing for some drink or something. I mean,
and it's like,
when you leak shit like that, it's like, what's the point of even like?
why even leak it? Just let it ride.
Like,
Right.
here's a
Just let it
snippet.
ride.
Here's a snippet of her new Super Bowl commercial. Like, why even show us 10 seconds of it? Like, just leave it shit. Leave it shit to
I
be.
do think we'll get a lot of more people to tune in if it's Baltimore versus Detroit than anything. Honestly,
You think so?
I think so.
Nah, I think
really think
if Kansas City is in it, that's what gets them to. And we
see. I don't. Oh, fuck! I forgot about Taylor Swift.
you know she will be there. You know, everybody will be.
Taylor Swift.
If Kansas City is in this, that's what they want.
Yeah,
like, let's be real about it.
You might be right. You might be right.
That's what they want, because if she's in it, all those fucking Swifties are watching Super Bowl.
And it's gonna be interesting.
Has been in every one of these damn playoff games.
It's still gonna be interesting to hear the conversation after, because if there's any like questionable calls, if there's any like not like small ticky tack questionable calls, but like a Saints Rams ass questionable call where old boy knocked his ass out.
Nah, that shit was crazy.
We're gonna definitely hear the conspiracies. Oh, the NFL wanted Taylor Swift and blah blah
blah.
Because
they do. You cannot tell me they don't. You cannot.
Yeah, they definitely do. They definitely do.
Yeah,
they definitely do. But Lamar's a good draw too. So I don't know. We'll see.
He's a different draw. He's a different draw.
Yeah, he's not. He ain't on Taylor Swift level yet.
No.
But next week we'll catch y'all again. Next week we'll go over the games. Obviously, we'll start to get into the Super Bowl preview, and hopefully, we got a great matchup. No injuries, no people missing or anything like that. We'll kind of get into who we think is going to be Super Bowl MVP, what a Super Bowl win will matter for each team. Also, get into the Senior Bowl, which I alluded to, and we'll get right back on the NBA beat. So we'll catch y'all again next week.
Yes, sir.
Yep.